Oh, hello. Hi, you found me in the hut again. Look, George is here. It's really nice. George comes down and keeps me good company here. Occasionally has a little biscuit, don't you, George? Do come in. I'll tell you what, you step in. I'll just step over to the other chair and you can come in and sit there. You see, I'm gradually, I've got this lovely picture that Maggie gave me up here. I think it goes rather well. It's a piece of marquetry work, so the wood on wood is nice. Anyway, have a seat. If you can climb over George. And George is looking up and appreciating you. So, at the moment, this hut, as you know, is the scene of work on my new Arthurian epic. It's a bit of an undertaking. But progress is being made. And I thought I'd share with you just an episode, or a couple of episodes. I'm on to the adventures of Sir Percivale. They're all the different knights who eventually, the three Grail knights that gather on the Grail ship, each have different adventures to try and get through to the ship. And all kinds of snares are put in their way. They have to get past them. And Percival's very interesting because, of course, he was in the earliest versions of the story. In some of Mallory's sources, but Mallory doesn't necessarily follow these exactly. Originally, before Galahad emerged as a figure in the tradition, Percival was really the Grail Knight, and so he's always there, even when Galahad is there. And anyway, in Mallory, this is my Mallory that I've shown you before, which is my chief source. There's a wonderful episode where Percival, having had an adventure with a demon-possessed horse and just recovering from that, goes down to a brook to drink, and a great lion comes and it's attacked by a serpent, and Percival fights on behalf of the lion and rescues it. And there's a lovely bit here in book 14 which says this. And then Percival thought to help the lion, for he was the more natural beast of the two, and therewith he drew his sword and set his shield before him, and there he gave the serpent such a buffet that he had a deadly wound. This is lovely. And when the lion saw that, he made no resemblance to fight with him, but made him all the cheer that a beast might make a man. Then Percival perceived that, and cast down his shield, which was broken. And then he did off his helm for to gather wind, for he was greatly enchafed with the serpent. And the lion went alway about him, fawning as a spaniel. And then he stroked him on the neck and the shoulders. And then he thanked God for the fellowship of that beast. And it's wonderful. I mean, we're always being told, by sort of social historians and things, that the whole love of animals and the particular feeling for them is a later development. And, in the Middle Ages, they didn't think like that. But here's this story from the 15th, written down in the 15th century, but much earlier, which is quite the contrary. And there may be an echo here, of course. The people would have known the stories about St. Jerome and the lion. And of course, it goes without saying that Lewis, who has a place for a lion in marvellous stories, will have read this as well. Anyway, I thought I'd read you just the episode with the demon-possessed horse leading into the lion. You'll see what I've done with it and how I've sort of... so we're getting a bit earlier in the story than I'd read you. So this is from the Percival story is now complete for me, but it's really it's too long for one of our little visits. But let me give you another sample, if I may, of work in progress. So I'll just say, if you're sitting comfortably, we'll begin, as they used to say. Listen with mother. So Percival rode for many days and met not anyone. But only tree and bird and beast were company upon his quest as he rode on alone, until he heard ahead a sound of many hoofbeats ring, and voices as of many men riding ahead up through the glen came strangely echoing. And suddenly came 20 strong, a troop of well-armed men, and then he saw, O doleful sight, they carried with them a dead knight, all pierced and cut in some dread fight that had been dear to them. And whence are you? The soldiers cried. And Percival spoke bold. I am a knight of Arthur's court, and for his grace I dread you naught. But when they heard his glad report, it seemed their blood ran cold. "King Arthur is our enemy," they cried. "Stand fast, false knight," and came at Percival with spear and sword and pike to slay him there. And Percivale forced down his fear and dressed him to the fight. Though he was well outnumbered there, many of them he slew. But as he fought, both fell and grim, and parried those who harried him, they slew his horse from under him, and soon would slay him too. When, sudden as a thunderbolt, from out the woods there came a great knight with a silver shield, who fell on them and made them yield, and bore the day and won the field, and made them flee in shame. As Percivale rose from the ground, still shaking where he stood, the new knight turned and spurred his steed and rode back through the wood. Of course, Percival has now realised, because the hermit has told him that Galahad rides with the silver, it must be Galahad whom he's seeking. "Fair knight, abide, and suffer me to thank you for this deed," cried Percivale, but all in vain. The new knight came not back again. Percivale followed, slow and lame, a knight without a steed. "Oh, for a horse," he inly cried, "Galahad gallops fast. Oh, for a steed to meet my need and catch him up at last." He made his slow and painful way, the roads were almost bare, but nigh sunset at last he met a yeoman on his mare, and riding by the mare he led a handsome jet-black steed. "Ah, just the mount," thought Percivale, "to aid me in my need." "Lend me your horse, good sir," he said, "I will reward you well. I have great need of all his speed, more need than I can tell." "Oh, to lend this horse," the yeoman said, "is more than my life's worth. For she, for whom I keep the beast, cares not for greatest nor for least, neither for prelate nor for priest, nor any man on earth. She is a woman strange and fey, and many fear her wrath. I dare not risk her sudden ire, for if I let her horse for hire, she'd strike me to the earth." Percival groaned and asked again as gently as he could, then plodded on all wearily into the darkening wood. At length he slept beneath the trees, the moon rose and he woke, and glimmering in the moonlight there, light in her eyes and on her hair, he saw a damsel fell and fair, leaning against an oak. And just beside her loomed a shape, the handsome jet-black steed. "Is this a dream, or has she come to help me in my need?" Of course, Percival wouldn't have had the sound of overhead planes when he was doing that. We'll just let that fly past, I think. Seems to be quite a lot of Air Force action in these Norfolk skies. It's in fact a helicopter. Right. "Is this a dream, or has she come to help me in my need?" "What do you here, Sir Percivale?" the midnight damsel said. "My horse is slain, and all in vain I've followed Galahad. If you will promise me a boon when my time comes to ask, I'll lend my steed to meet your need and help you in your task." Percival promised full and fair, and took the bridle rein. The damsel turned, her dark eyes burned. She spoke to him again. "My mount will bear you where you wish, swifter than you can know. His sires were all of fairy breed, he's faster far than any steed, and spirited and fierce indeed, so mount him now and go." Percivale leapt upon his back and spurred the great steed on. Away they sped into the night. Percival marvelled at its might. It plunged and veered, but he held tight beneath the midnight moon. By hill and vale, so runs the tale, they flew with magic speed, and Percival, for all his skill, could scarce control the steed. At length they came to a ravine that plunged down stark and steep, right down to where dark waters poured, and a great swollen river roared o'er rocks both sharp and steep. And now it seemed the horse went wild and reared up on the brink, about to leap from off the edge, down from the steep and jagged ridge, where there was neither ford nor bridge, and all must drown and sink. Percival crossed himself for fear that seemed to freeze his blood, and just as it began to rear, he slipped the horse, and towering there, he saw instead a great black bear with demon eyes that blazed in ire. It leapt and plunged down through the air and crashed into the flood. And where it fell, the water burned and demon voices wailed. Alas, He undoes our dark curse by signing with the Holy Cross. Our mistress now will know our loss and find that we have failed. Percivale crossed himself again and knelt and prayed full well, to thank God who delivered him from that strong fiend, both fell and grim, whose purpose was to carry him and bring him straight to hell. I thank God for the timely sign and strength of his good cross, and feel afresh, like clean, cool airs, my mother's and my sister's prayers, for all the holiness was theirs that kept me from this loss. Then searching round, he found a cave where he might pass the night. In loneliness he prayed and wept, but then secure in love he slept, as his kind saints their watch still kept, and held him to the light. And in the morn when he awoke, he found a safer way that led down to the waterside. The river there ran clear and wide, and sweet and fresh above the tide that moved out in the bay. He was about to stoop and drink, but drew back in dismay, for a great lion came pacing there. All golden was its mane and hair. It came to drink the water there, all in the brightening day. But even as it stooped to drink, there came a serpent fell, that swiftly coiled about the beast, seeking to crush its breath and breast. The lion struggled, but its best seemed faint and like to fail. Percivale drew his father's sword and struck out at the snake. It turned its glittering eyes on him, and then began a struggle grim. It sought to sink its fangs in him. Percivale's shield defended him. He pressed the serpent with its rim and drove his sword deep into him. The black blood flowed and curled with flame, all burning in its wake. The serpent writhed until it died. But then the lion came. It came to him at steady pace, but lo, with kindness in its face, the great beast moved with golden grace and rubbed him with its mane. So Percivale laid down his shield and he did off his helm. Softly he stroked the lion's mane, who fawned and purred and couched again, and showed the knight that he would fain keep company with him. The lion brought him right good cheer when he was all forlorn. Percival had great joy of him, and when he slept as day grew dim, the loyal lion guarded him and woke him in the morn. The lion woke and nuzzled him and nudged him from the side, as though to say, "Come, friend, awake, and let us our refreshment take. Then follow me through briar and brake, for I will be your guide." The lion led him down the stream towards the sounding shore, just down to where the river bends, not far from where the forest ends. Then, when he could see the silver sands, the lion kissed his feet and hands, and followed him no more. Percivale blessed his parting friend, and sat down by the shore. He thought of his adventures past, and on the Lord his cares he cast. And then he fell asleep at last, and heard the waves no more. Well, in fact, there's another adventure still to have before he finally meets his sister Dindrain, and she welcomes him onto the Grail ship. So there's more to come, but in fact that's written, but that's probably enough for now. Anyway, I had great pleasure in writing that. I really love this story of the Percival rescuing the lion, and then the lion being his sort of friend and guide. It's rather one of the more beautiful episodes in the strange, enchanted, interweaving adventures in the forest that we find in Mallory. So, work proceeds apace, and I have good hopes of getting the first volume done, which will consist of 3 books and will cover the entire Grail story. Certainly by the end of the year, that would be very good. Anyway, cheers and thanks for dropping round. It's rather nice that we've got George when we've got a story about kind companion animals. George can be my equivalent of Percivale's lion, which is rather nice. God bless.